What's going on, y'all? Back with the Premier League predictions. Obviously last week didn't get the Arsenal video out. I was actually in Ohio. Excuse me. Oof. Excuse me. But I was actually in Ohio because I did get to see Lionel Messi play in Cincinnati. So I was in Ohio last weekend. Got there a little early. Spent some time over in Ohio. I watched the Arsenal game, but I was not able to make a video. Because I just had so much going on last weekend. But Arsenal videos will be back, but we're back to the Premier League. First game, actually later today at 2, my time, is Chelsea versus Luton. And Chelsea, let's be honest, Chelsea, they're kind of being memeable. They're kind of a team that people are making fun of recently. And I get it. I get it when it comes to with Luton Town. They've only played one game. But Chelsea, they're kind of the laughing stock because they just spent big money on Moises Caicedo, who gave up a penalty. They spent a lot of big money recently. Since the last time we talked, they brought in Romeo Lavia. They brought in another guy yesterday for $17 million, David De Souza, and they brought in Moises Caicedo. That's all since the last time we spoke. Chelsea's got the big names. They got the big names. The projected lineup is Sanchez in goal with Gusto, Silva, Caldwell, and Chilwell in the back. They got Fernandez and Caicedo in the midfield. Attacking, they got Sterling, Gallagher, and Maatsen. That seems weird for me. They got Ian Maatsen attacking. They don't have him in the back. I haven't got to watch a Chelsea game this season yet. Haven't had the time, so I'll get to watch them today. And then Nicholas Jackson, interested to see what he's able to do. But then you go to Luton, who they're expected to have Morris up top. He has a goal this season. Adebayo up top. Giles, Mpanzu, Nakamba, Chong, Kabore, Bell, Lockyer, and Anderson, and then in goal they got Kaminsky. So Luton Town that's the expected lineups. On paper, this Chelsea team should be winning. They should win. Will they? I don't know. They haven't looked great. They drew with Liverpool. They lost in embarrassing fashion last week to West Ham. And I think West Ham is a team that should not be beating Chelsea. With the amount of money that Chelsea has spent this period, they should not be losing to West Ham. Luton is the perfect, and I mean perfect, turnaround point for Chelsea. It is a team that is weak. It is a team that shouldn't be competing with the top of the Premier League. It is a team that, if you're a team with championship, with not championship, I guess I got to use different words, with a team with Champions League aspirations. They could go and win the Premier League title. They could, but I doubt it at this point. Chelsea, they haven't looked good enough for that. And I think they would have needed to really wow some people early on and really build on that, but I don't think they're going to win a Premier League championship anytime soon. Keep calling it the championship. That's the league under the Premier League. The Premier League title. Premier League title. I don't think they're going to win it this year, I'm going to be honest. But if you have Champions League aspirations, I think a team like Chelsea need to really turn it around right now. On paper, they should be beating Luton. And I'm going to hope they do, because I'm going to take Chelsea 2-0 against Luton. But we'll see what ends up happening there with Luton and Chelsea. Then on Saturday, we got early game with Bournemouth and Tottenham. Shout out to Tottenham. They did their thing last week, and they beat Man United, not Man City. Bournemouth, they lost to Liverpool, and Liverpool is, once again, a team that I think needs to turn it around pretty quickly. But here's the starting lineups. Predicted starting lineups for Bournemouth. They got Solanke at striker. They got Anthony, Christie, and Semenyo on attack. They got Billing and Rothwell in the midfield. Kirkes, Senese, Zabarny, and Aarons. And then they got Nato in the goal. And then with Tottenham, they got Richarlison up top, Son on the wing with Kulishevsky. And then they got I think it's Celso? I don't know. Wonder how you pronounce that name. They got Busuma, who was pretty good last week. They got Sar. Then you got Udogi, who he's looked pretty good lately. He's looked pretty good in the games. The Man United game I watched last week. They got Van de Ven. They got Romero and Porro, and they got Vicario and goal. Once again, this is a team that on paper should be beating Bournemouth. Tottenham should be beating Bournemouth. Last week they handled their business with United. And I think this is obviously another team they should be able to handle business with. Obviously, this one is in Bournemouth, so they might not be able to do as much as they could at home. But I still think Tottenham win this one. I'm going to go 2-1 Tottenham. Arsenal versus Fulham. My Gunners going up against Fulham back in the Emirates this game against Fulham. We need to win this game. Obviously, there's a lot of problems right now. Not necessarily on the pitch, but people off the pitch. With Arsenal, Jurrien Timber, he's out. He's not going to be back anytime soon. He might be out the full season. Obviously, Tomiyasu got a red card last game. He will not be here. So there's going to be some tinkering around there with that back four. Who runs left back? Gabriel, is he going to be back in the starting lineup? Wasn't starting last week. Don't know if he's going to start. Obviously, I'm pretty sure it's gone through at this point. Kieran Tierney got sent away on transfer. He left the team, and I don't know if it's been made official yet. But he is going. Where is he going? Out of all the news, Real Sociedad's where Kieran Tierney's going. So he's going to be gone. But with all the news that's coming out of Arsenal, you'd think that would be one of the top stories on FotMob Arsenal page, but it's not. It's a couple down. Gabriel Jesus is back in training now. I don't know if he's going to participate. If he does participate in this match, I imagine he's going to be coming off the bench behind Nketiah or even Trossard. Not sure yet. But Jesus is back. I imagine he'll be ready to go here fully in about 2 or 3 games. He should be back in the lineup as a starter. Might not be running full games yet, but I imagine he'll starting again here in the next 2 or 3 games now that he's back at training. But the expected lineup here against Fulham is Ramsdale in goal. I would still keep Ramsdale in goal. I think you don't really bring in David Raya until the Carabao Cup. And then if he really wows you in the Carabao Cup, then you can start thinking about using him more in Prem League games. But I think for the most part, you want to use Ramsdale while he's still got some momentum. He's looked good so far this year. Back line, the expected starters are Thomas Partey. There, Ben White at center back, Saliba there, and Kivior. I like Kivior. I do like Kivior, but I would like to see Ben White move back out to one of those wing back positions, and then I would like to move Gabriel back to the true center back position. I want to see Gabriel in that starting lineup. We haven't seen it. He was starting in the preseason, and the first 2 games he has yet to start. I really want to see him back in it. I prefer when Partey is not in the back line. I would prefer him in the midfield. I want to be honest. Thomas Partey does not need to be playing right back, left back, any of those positions, in my opinion. But he has been. I would prefer him to be more in the middle of the field. But obviously, with a guy like Declan Rice now on the team, how much time would he get if he doesn't play right back? And with a absence with Jurrien Timber, it's not the most absurd thing to have Partey back there. Obviously, they're still looking at potentially bringing in another whether it be a center back or left back, right back. They're still looking at bringing in somebody on the defense. And we will know more a little bit in the next week. Deadline day is not too far away. It's on September 1st. So we got a couple, at least 6 or 7 more days until that happens. But we got about a week left to see if they add another guy in the back line. Don't expect him to play the next Prem game if we do. If he does, he'll play off the bench. But Hardy, I'm going to be honest, I think he might be. This isn't anything against him because I don't think of him as a true right back, to be honest. This isn't anything against Party, so don't go saying that I'm not a Party fan. I would prefer him to be in the midfield, but I think he's probably the weakest link in that back line at this point. Obviously, losing Jurrien Timber really hurt us. So it'll be interesting. But I would like to see Gabriel in some capacity brought back in. Obviously, William Saliba has been one of the best center backs in the entire world for us through the first 2 games. He's been absolutely great. So we'll end up seeing. But Ben White, I think, is pretty safe in being that rotation. It's just whether or not he's going to be playing a wing back position or if he's going to be playing center back. And then Kivior, I think Kivior is fairly good. It'll just be interesting to see if they go try to move Ben White onto the one of the outsides and then let Gabriel play because Ben White can play right back. So it'll be interesting to see if they move him back there. Midfield, you got Ødegaard, Rice, and Havertz. I think that's a smart starting midfield there. Obviously, a lot of expectations for the 2 big signings there. You paid $65 and then you paid $105 for. That's $170 midfield between the 2 with Rice and Havertz, and then you got Ødegaard, who has been one of the best players on Arsenal, obviously team captain. So really good midfield. Havertz, a lot of expectations, hasn't yet met the expectations really. I thought he's played decent in the first 2 games, but we've yet to see any goals from Kai Havertz. So obviously we'll hope to see one here. Declan Rice has been very solid through the first 2 games, and then Ødegaard, I don't even think we need to talk about how great he's been. I think he's been one of the 2 best players on the team, at least game-wise. I don't necessarily think he is the best player on the team. I wouldn't even know if he. I can't even. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if I could say he's one of the top 2 because Saliba's been so great for us. He's been so great for us. I would say, obviously, I think Saliba, you can make the case, could be the best player on the team right now. Obviously, Saka's looked great. Declan Rice has been good. Ødegaard's been good. I think you got 4 really good players there that can compete for being the best player on the team right now, or who's playing the best football right now. But Ødegaard obviously got the decisive goal last week on his kick. He was able to bring it in. So I think that's a great starting midfield against a team like Fulham. Then we got Saka up top with probably Nketiah, could be Trossard, or we could go, and then we got Martinelli, who I think Martinelli's more than likely starting. And then on the other side, we got Jimenez, Reed, Pereira, Wilson, Paulina, Reed, Robinson, Bassi, Diop, Tete, and Leno. Shout out to Leno. He is one of my Fantasy Premier League goalkeepers, but unfortunately, I think we're going to put too many points on him, so I have Ederson starting this week. But Leno, I don't know if you're going to be stopped. I think Arsenal should win this game pretty easily, 2-0. 2-0. Brentford versus Palace. Palace. They didn't get the win last week. Olise is obviously out. Obviously, that's going to be the big thing there. He didn't play last. Olise didn't play last week. But I think Palace is a pretty good team. They're a very physical team. They're a team that should be competing really well. But a guy that's been great, Wissa. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. One of the attackers for Brentford. He's got 2 goals on the season already. So shout out to him. Brentford's starting lineup looks like Flecken in the goal, Hickey, Collins, Pinnock, and Henry on the back line. Janelt, Norgard, Jensen in the midfield. And then you got Mbumbo, Wissa, and Shade up top. For Palace, you got Edouard, you got Schlupp, Eze, Ayew, Lerma, Decore, Mitchell, Gahey, Anderson, and Ward. And then in goal, you got Johnston. Shout out to Gahey. He's been pretty solid for me in Fantasy Premier as well. Shout out to him. But this is a tough one. This is a tough one for me because Brentford's look pretty good. They can get goals. Brentford's been able to get goals. They, I believe, have 5 goals on the season. Yeah, I got 2 against Tottenham and 3 last week against Fulham. They got 5 goals on the season. 5 goals on the season. Palace, I think that's a little bit too much to handle. You're playing Brentford, I believe, at Brentford. So unfortunately for Palace, I'm going to go with Brentford. I'm going to go 2-1. I'll give Palace a goal this week. I'll give them a goal this week. Everton versus Wolves. Oh gosh. Everton, they are a disaster. Wolves, I thought, I'm going to be honest, they have 2 losses. But I thought in the first game they looked pretty solid, and then they were able to score last game. So I think there's some grittiness to this Wolves team. But for Everton, their starting lineup is Pickford, Patterson, Keane, Tarkowski, and Young with Gaye in the midfield. And then attacking, they got Gardner, Doucouré, Onana, Danjuma, and Maupe. And then Wolves, they got Sarabia, Cunha, Huang, Lamina, Gomez, one of the two, Nato, and then they got Nori, Kilman, Dawson, and Semedo with Jose Sa in goal. So this is going to be an interesting game. Nunez is suspended for it, but I think honestly, when it's said and done, Everton's not a good team. Neither are Wolves by any means. Wolves aren't that great of a team, but I thought they looked solid in their first game at least. Everton's just they've yet to score this season. They're down 5, -5 on the season. Everton's not looked good. They're a disaster. I'm gonna go Wolves 1-0. Man United versus Nottingham Forest. This is a game I'm looking forward to. I'm gonna be honest with you. Nottingham Forest won 2-1 against Sheffield last week. Man United looks bad. They look bad. They have not impressed anybody. Yes, they have 3 points, but they didn't look good against Wolves. They certainly didn't look good against Tottenham. And a team like Forest that was able to pick one up on Arsenal, I think a team like Forest could pull off the upset here. I'm going to ultimately, though, because it's at Manchester, it's at Old Trafford, I'm going to say it's a draw. 1-1 Forest, able to get a point out of it. I guess I can go over the starting lineups for United and Forest. It doesn't really matter because I don't really think that Man United's that great this season. They got Onana in goal, Wan-Bissaka, Varane. I believe he has a goal. He has the 1 goal of the season for Man United. Martinez, Dalot, Casemiro, Eriksson, Anthony, Fernandez, Rashford, and Jadon Sancho. Then for Forest, you got Gibbs White, Owoni, something like that. I believe he has a couple goals he has 2 goals as well. Then you got Johnson, Williams, Mangala, Yates, and Aurier. Then you got McKenna, Worrell, and Boley, and then Matt Turner in goal. Brighton versus West Ham at Brighton. This is going to be once again, I think, a easy game for Brighton. I don't have very much hope for West Ham, to be honest. I know they won last week, but I think Brighton's just a way better team. They got Welbeck up top. They got Matoma, Pedro, Sonny March, I believe almost had a hat trick last week. You think he had 2? Yeah, he had 2. They got Gilmore, Gross, Estupinan. I think Estupinan's been contributing too. Yeah, he has 2 assists and a goal. Dunk, Webster, James Milner. And then they got Steele. And then with West Ham, you got Antonio, Ben Rama, Paqueta, Bowen, Ward-Prowse, Suchek, Emerson, Ogbonna, Zuma, Kufal, and Areola. But I think ultimately Brighton wins this one once again 3-1. Burnley versus Villa. Burnley, only seen them once. I thought they did fairly solid for who they're going up against, but we don't have the starting lineups, but I think Villa wins this one 3-1. We won't have any starting lineups for the Sunday games. Sheffield United, Man City. Do I need to even talk about it? 4-0. Man City. Newcastle, Liverpool. Newcastle better win that game. Liverpool's looks bad. They look bad. 2-1. 2-1.